a nice spot, play relatability politics. That's just the optics of the start, and that's why we realized there was a whole hour. And you cannot tell me that a state that can summon all media stations in a whiff would not be able to log into an X space. You wouldn't tell me that this, because he said it before, that I will join X. If he said it on Tuesday, you cannot tell me that planning, if I told you that we have an X space in an hour, you would not fumble it.
All right.
I am not the president yet.
I'd like us to take a look at what happened during that X-Space conversation before we move on. So let's listen in to that report.
Staff currently employed by the affected corporations will be transferred to ministries and other state agencies within government. The decision to fill the position of Chief Administrative Secretaries is hereby suspended. The number of advisors in government shall be reduced by 50% within the public service with immediate effect. Budget lines providing for the operations of the Office of the First Lady, the spouse of the Deputy President, and the Prime Cabinet Secretary will be removed. Similarly, the budget provisions for confidential budgets in various executive offices, including my own office, have been removed.
All right, that is that speech by President William Ruto before that X-Space conversation detailing a bunch of austerity measures. We'll be getting to those, but Josephine, what are your thoughts on the way that the X-Space began, the 3 or 4 false starts?
I really do not have much to comment about the X-Space because I'm not even an X-Space regular user. But I feel like at this point, His Excellency is between a rock and a hard place because he's damned if we do, he's damned if we do not. If he does not, because if he wasn't on the X-Space, it would have been a different story. We told him to come to the X-Space. We told him to be relatable to us. And when he comes, why did he have a bad camera? Why did he have bad sound? You know, like it's something here and
when
something
you're speaking
there.
to Gen Zs.
Yeah, it's what do we want really? Then let's put into words exactly what we want, because we said come to the X-Space and he came. Now we didn't say come to the X-Space with good camera and good sound. You know, he just come to the X-Space and listen to us. And he said he'll come and host us. Then probably technical issues here and there. I cannot comment about the you know, how true his technical issues were, whether it was true or not, or it was a PR stunt. But then he came, and then because of the technical hitches, he was hosted by someone else. And then that's a problem. I'm really not going to comment much, but we should really look into ourselves. Do we really just want to continue complaining as this Gen Z movement? We always have something to talk about, or do you actually want change and movement?
All right. Jennifer, this really was a first, and it has taken many countries by storm because Kenya has set a precedent. President William Ruto himself has set a precedent to come out and speak to Kenyans on X. That's never been seen before. Yeah. And so after that shaky first hour, an X-user by the name Osama Otero ended up hosting the president. Many were taken by surprise by that move.
Yeah.
Were you?
Yes, I was taken by surprise. First, because when Osama was taken captive, we fought for him in these platforms. The same people who took him for some days are the same people he's hosting. When we told the president to come to X, we didn't mean we want him to address us. We meant come and listen to those conversations we are having. Meet us at our point, because this entire movement came from Twitter, TikTok. It's just more than the X space, because there is also a TikTok. So you're coming to address people in X? No. The issues we are addressing are more than the people in that space. We want you to address issues. There is an older generation that was unable to log in.
So you were not in support of the X space in the first place?
No, I wanted him to be part of it, but to listen. We are having this conversation. Yesterday there was another one, and these are deep. There are so many issues being discussed in deep context, and that's what we want him to actually listen to. Not to come and address us and tell us, you know, it's giving kicks of a dying horse, you know, 50%, we're going to cut a budget. We already fought the finance bill. you already rejected. There is more than that. So stop telling us about the finance, because we already moved past that. Now we want accountability. Now we want those MPs that you're calling to Karen instead of addressing them in parliament to be held accountable. So when Osama hosted, it felt like a betrayal, and it's okay. It's part of a movement. Some fall off, and it's fine. And this also is quite a distraction to the movement, honestly. I feel like it's very intentional. It's more of a divide and rule kind of thing, because Osama being hosted by the president creates doubt in these people who have this message to have this conversation. So there is the part where now we are feeling, oh my God, we are being betrayed by these people, but these are side shows. So I'd like to tell my generation, let's stay focused. That's just one man who did that. Whatever amount he was paid, okay, you've benefited from it. But
do you agree with Josephine, though, that there has been a lot of complaining from the Gen Z movement? And so they said they wanted a conversation with the president. And so the president came on X and had the conversation. And then the youth were still not satisfied. And now they feel like the conversation wasn't the way we wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And so we don't want it all to... What is the movement really after? And what was the aim of asking for dialogue with the president?
we didn't ask for dialogue with the president. We told the president to leave. We do not trust his government. We do not trust the intentions of, you know, every time he speaks, it feels like you're dating that Nairobian man. He's just gaslighting you, because the realities on the ground are different. We didn't ask for this dialogue. He's the one who's trying to meet us. The time for dialogue is way far gone. Because when there was time to talk, he didn't talk to us. They were busy flying across the country, whereas we have victims of floods being given 10,000. When they were, floods effects where kids were sleeping on mabati roofs, and we are on Twitter asking for support, get choppers to rescue these people. They didn't listen to us. So there is no time for conversation. We are not trying to have a conversation with this government. What we are telling the government is we do not trust your intentions. We do not trust your plan. That's why we rejected the finance bill. You're borrowing. We actually believe our country is sold. We are sold to the IMF and World Bank. Right. So, Mr. President, we are not trying to have a conversation, and we are not complaining. You know, when you say our generation is complaining, I just can't wake up like a mad person and say, you know, I need the president to leave. I'm complaining because we are suffering. Our country has...
just been a rebuttal to that.
Yes, I'd like to comment 3 things. First off, yes, we agree some of the measures that he's putting are too little too late. They're good, but a little too late. But now that we have realized that and we have awoken, what will happen if we just continue complaining and, you know, like not accept that we are heading somewhere? We'll have a frustrated population. That's what will happen. And as much as you're saying Ruto must go, because I had in the X space, I think I joined yesterday, it doesn't matter if it's now or 2027, you want the whole government out. But we have to recognize that this person is here up to 2027. Whether you like it or not, he is here. What is the best course of action? That's what we're supposed to look at. We have this movement that is making them listen to us. Okay, so we want him to go now. And then, you know, we want him to do this. And then, what is the effect of us keeping on talking about these things and not having a radical conversation? We're just having irrational and passionate hate flying around. Second thing, I work in a corporate, you know, I'm in a corporate job. I work 8 to 5, aside from what I do for the young people and gender, also PWDs. That's what I'm championing, and that's why I'm here today. I work in a corporate. If I have a problem with my boss, normally I'd talk to my peers in the kitchen and, you know, like I'd be like, you know, this boss, he did this to me. I don't like, can you imagine? She 1, 2, 3'd me, you know, we talk about in the kitchen. But if I want to raise those issues with my boss, I'll not tell her to come to the kitchen. I'll actually decide to, you know, have an actual proper conversation, because I realize as much as we work together, there are levels to this, you know. But my boss, in this case, decided to come to me to the kitchen. And then why would I get mad for her or him coming to me in the kitchen now and listen to me? Okay, you didn't come to the kitchen in heels, you know, like that's what it looks like. That thing, talking about maybe the whole thing with Osama and betrayal, and even Kasmil himself has received some heat from his position in all of this. This is what I'd like to say. Statistics show that #RejectFinance bill has been skyrocketing, and the number of tweets have skyrocketed, more than 2 million tweets about this. This is how the whole world has gotten to know about this revolution. But looking keenly into this thing, only about 14% are individual tweets. The whole 86% are just retweets. So as much as we say that we are a leaderless, you know, generation, they're actually people leading this conversation. Kasmel being one of them, Osama being one of them, we know Kimuzi, we know a few people. They're actually people leading the conversation. Other people are just, yes, viva, you know, retweeting all these things. And that is how it's spreading across the world. So now, Kasmel has received some heat. You know, Osama has received some heat. Osama has received some heat.
Let me hear from Kasmel then. And so, for you, Kasmel, then this is... it's been quite controversial, and we'll get to your thoughts on the X space. But after Kelvin Monari or Sam Otero on X hosted the president, there's been a lot of talk of betrayal. Many feel that those who, because he was among those who asked Kenyans to not join the X space hosted by the president and actually join a parallel one hosted by him. It's raised a lot of conversations on betrayal. I mean, even questioning if the abductions we saw during the anti-finance bill protests were fake or legitimate to begin with. You were among those who were abducted. Many said you abducted yourself, came out to clean. Was it a real abduction? Did you fake your abduction? I
did not fake my abduction. And I think this is the other thing which we usually forget, that propaganda during this time. A lie travels half the world before the truth has a point to have its pants up. And it's part of the things where I feel like, then let's be really vigilant. Let's be even more vigilant about the state taking people. Because remember, this is not a government that has proven itself innocent. And I will backdate this government to 2013 because a lot of the administrators in this government were in that government. We cannot be lost to the fact that there are bodies that were found in River Yala, that there were kids who were still being killed, and then now it got to the point where now we are vigilant. So now what this does is ensure that my neighbor is not going to get lost or taken.
Well, why do you think people think you faked your abduction?
I cannot speak to other people's thoughts. Because, you know, I've just been consistently busy with agitating for human rights. And that's why, and specifically, it will sound like I'm doing a side. But my goal is not to clear my name. Because my name means nothing. I would much rather be playing piano or discussing philosophy or studying than being on the streets. The streets are unsafe. But look at what President Ruto has turned us to. So when you say Ruto must go, it's not necessarily that it's President William alone. It goes along with the entire political class which has sold us to the West. And this includes those so-called opposition MPs.
All right. When we began speaking, Jennifer said there was some fear instilled when, you know, we saw people next to you being shot dead. Did the abduction instill any fear in you? What
can possibly instill more fear than seeing a person get shot? Because, you know, I'm not a trained soldier, and I keep on saying this, that it is the only place we were familiar with gunshots were in movies. But right now it's gotten to the point where I can't even sleep properly because every once in a while I hear shots. Yesterday I was walking around with a friend who took a bullet to a rubber bullet to his torso. It's not a common thing that common people now have things like gunshot wounds. These are not tattoos, and they're not marks of bravery. And back to terminology, I'd like to correct a lot of the terminology that we are going on. We are not complaining. I feel like complaining is in the same vein which the media has been doing, calling these demonstrations anti-government protests. These are not anti-government protests. These are pro-good governance protests. And I think the imaging is also part, and I don't think some people are doing this intentionally. Some are, but some it is just due to ignorance because of the people that we have running these things. But once we see these things for exactly what they are, we begin to understand that the president coming onto an X space was not a show of goodwill. It was not a show of goodwill because if they were working constitutionally, if we did not have a budget line called confidential, costing 800 million, he wouldn't need to come to our space. If we do not have office of the first, second, cabinet secretary, now they want the office of the distant relative so that they can get tenders, we would not be in this place. If we cannot equate the Twitter space to the concert we had yesterday. The concert we had yesterday at Sabasaba was a memorial still. You know, it was not just an ordinary concert. But him coming, there's nothing trend-setting about a president coming to listen to his people. He came to the space because we said, we will lose no more blood. We are tired of this thing. People keep on saying revolutions cost blood, but we are tired of seeing young, innocent people. There's a family without a father right now. There's a person who's never gonna walk right now.
All right, and we'll be discussing then the content of that X space because the questions were raw and direct to the president. We're taking a look at his response as well. But I'd like to bring your attention to the top page of the Star newspaper. It says, financial mess at Hustler Fund revealed. That's what's making headlines on the top page of the Star newspaper. And an audit report has unearthed major irregularities in President William Ruto's key flagship project, and that is the Hustler Fund. We'd like to speak shortly to the PS for MSMEs, Susan Mangeni, as the audit report highlights several things, including the fact that 464 million shillings was disbursed to non-registered persons. 200 million shillings loans were disbursed above set limits. It also says that duplicate loan IDs were used to process loans and that 81 million shilling worth of loans were closed before repayment. It's an array of issues. One, that the loan system is also not properly configured. Loans issued to, have been issued to customers who do not even have national IDs. There's been unconfirmed authenticity of balances and disclosed customer savings interest, an array of issues as part of this audit report. So let's speak on phone to the Principal Secretary for MSMEs, Susan Mangeni. Susan, good morning and many thanks for giving us your time. It is a damning audit report on President William Ruto's flagship project. What seems to be the problem?
Michelle, good morning, and good morning to my very good friends in the studio, the panelists. Michelle, I don't think the story was about the audit report, because anytime the audit report comes out, it's always followed by management response. You may want to ask yourself, why did the auditor not highlight the management response? Secondly, why would the author of the story not come even for our comments as the managers of the fund? Instead, on the same page, he goes for the comment of an opposition MP. And it's the comment which he publishes there. I want to say the following. One, and I've said it before, I think, yes, we are in a difficult situation as a country, but it's also not proper for us to lose hold of our responsibility in all spaces that we are in. Responsible journalism would have given a response to this. And I want to say here, there is no material loss. All those reconciliation issues that auditor raised when he interacted with the system of the telcos, with the system of the bank, have been closed out. And there is a report to that effect. And let me tell you this, unless if, again, we are being told that we have telephone numbers in this country which are not properly integrated with an ID. Today, any cell phone number is properly integrated with the national ID. So for me, what I want to say, had the author of the story reached out to us, spared even a little more time to reach out to us, we would have given the author the true status of those figures which the auditors would
but it's a lot of irregularities when you take a look at this audit report, Susan. I mean, look at 464 million shillings disbursed to non-registered persons. Why would an audit report come up with that?
Michelle, there is no regularities. There are no regularities there because these are systems, these are data reconciliation issues. We have data port with the telcos, and then we have data port with the banks, because it's the banking which does credit lending. Credit lending is the banking and reconciliation, and it is the telcos infrastructure that does disbursement. And for you to get access to the Hustler Fund, you enter through the channel of the telcos and back end that the banks which does the scoring and reconcile. And so all those issues that auditor raised when he interacted during the audit process, and he sent us a management letter. That management letter was properly looked into and responses have been provided. And these are system audits. So when the author of the story raises such a sensational headline, and on the side, he or she chooses now to go for an opposition MP, we are misleading the country. Let's raise issues, but can we also provide responses so that we do not just keep on raising issues? It's like now everybody's punching from left to right, and we are ruining our country. Let's not forget to remember, let's not forget about the story of Rwanda, 1994 genocide.
Right, and the role of the media.
Because of sensational news. And we are saying, I'm ready and we are willing today to meet with all journalists. Let us go through the steps. Right, with the system and everything to raise some of those issues. So
we understand that, Susan. We do not have much time.
There is no material loss.
The Star newspaper may not have given you a chance to respond, but very briefly, we are giving you a chance to respond. So you have disputed claims of irregularities at the Hustler Fund,
yes, Michelle, those are not whose
legality has remained questionable. But let me just ask the final question.
Yes.
There's been, one of the highlights here that 81 million shillings of loans were closed before repayment. Hustler Fund has, every so often given reports of how much has been borrowed, how much profits have been made, how much has been channeled back to the Mwananchi. How did they miss this 81 million shillings of loans closed before repayment?
That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm saying. How do we close out? When all accounts are still, and let me tell you, it's not possible to close out loans. One, because their savings are attached. Accounts cannot be closed when we have savings. Remember, savings is mandatory savings. We check off your saving of 5% at the point of borrowing. So when we say we close out the loan and you are still inactive, you still have an active account, that's not true. So what I will say is this, Michelle, the story that we've seen today, and we are seeing today, is so much sensational, and I wish the author also reached out to us to properly now take him or her through, and then some of those issues, as part of responsible journalism, he or she would have closed it out before even taking them to the media. And also choosing to go to an opposition MP to make a comment, and not for us to give any audit report is followed by management response.
I'd like to take a break. I'd like to take a break, Mangeni. You have taken issue. You have taken issue with the opposition member of parliament, Jeremiah Kioni, who says that the regime created the fund to grab public funds in early days. I'd like to wind up with one question. I'd like to wind up with one question, because a report by the Auditor General, earlier this year showed that Safaricom had actually overcharged the Hustler Fund borrowers to the tune of 368 million shillings.
So
is this an issue that has been sorted?
And the question is that by them, Michelle, that's not true. That's absolutely not true. At one point, they cannot be saying we have defaulters. At another point, they say they're being charged. I mean, those stories are not true. And that's why, yes, auditor raises queries during the audit process and flags them off. And we gave access to auditor, the service providers gave access to the system and to everything. So when he raised those issues that she couldn't understand, they are providing responses. The system are being audited, re-audited and re-queried and everything to provide those. One thing I want to assure Kenyans, that there is no material loss. Those duplications are not there. These were questions of reconciliation which have since been addressed. And I just want to call out to journalism by day, including even K24, please. When you run such kind of a story, it's also good that you call out to the managers also to give like what you've done. And I want to thank you for this.
All right.
But running such a story, and on the side, you are having an opposing view on what should have been a professional in itself, that shows that we are really treading a very dangerous path.
Many thanks, Susan. We must take a break here.
Shouldn't be here. But thank you for giving me this opportunity. We are open. We'll be reaching out to all the journalists who are interested in the story so that we can lay the facts.
All
And
right.
there is no material loss.
Many
in all
thanks.
this.
That is
Thank you.
MSME's PS Susan
Thank you.
Mangeni disputing, among others, this top page of the Star newspaper there, revealing a mess in President Ruto's Hustler Fund project that is essentially meant to benefit the youth, the same youth who are on the street calling out a corrupt regime. Let's take a break here at New Dawn. When we come back, we'll be discussing your thoughts as well as the impacts following President William Ruto's dialogue with the Gen Z. Do stay with us.